In order to better understand the reality for trans people, I want you not to imagine what it would be like if you were actually the opposite gender, but instead I want for you to imagine that you are a can of lentils. Suspend your disbelief. This isn't vegan propaganda. No, not at this point. You're a can of lentils and you're sitting on a factory shelf and, you know, one of the factory workers coming over, putting labels on each of the cans and puts a label on you that says coconut milk. And you're like, excuse me, I'm not coconut milk. You wouldn't know that unless you literally opened me up and look inside, but I promise, you put me on a supermarket shelf, cost of living's rising at the moment, you know, someone's gonna buy me, they're gonna put me in a pina colada, lentils in a cocktail. It's just not gonna be a good time. You're gonna get sued, you know. I'm just letting you know, it's not a good idea. So being trans is not the process of this can of lentils trying to become coconut milk, or even becoming lentils, right? But actually the process of changing that label on the outside so people can see what was always on the inside. And that process can look like getting surgery, taking hormones, but it can also look like getting a haircut or people just believing you when you say, that's not the right label for me. The thing is that we have invisibilized so many ways that we all conform to or build towards gender. So many of the things that we do in our society are about our relationship to our gender, but because it's normalized in a certain frame, it's not noticed. You know, going to the gym is gender affirmation. Getting Botox is gender affirmation. Like, buying makeup can be gender affirmation. The clothes that we choose to wear, the things that make us feel comfortable in our bodies and seen for who we want to be, if it is an autonomous choice, that's gender affirmation, you know? It's just that when people do it the way that you're not expecting, that's when it becomes a problem. So being trans is, so that process, yeah, see, this is what happens, is I'm not really a note kind of gal, and I was like, I'll try with some notes. You know, if we stop trans people from transitioning or having their identities validated, they will not cease to be trans, but they may cease to be. Getting misgendered every day is a death by 1,000 paper cuts. The first one is a little painful, but when it happens over and over, day in and day out, every time you hear, ladies and gentlemen, or go to the bathroom and there's nowhere for you to safely go, or someone introduces you at work with the wrong pronouns, it degrades at your sense of self until you shrink. We know from the 2017 Trans Pathways Report, the largest study ever conducted of trans mental health in Australia, that almost 1 in 2 trans young people have ever attempted suicide. 48.1%. Now, that's a really scary statistic, but that's also my friends, you know, my community. Like, I've been on suicide watch for people since I was 17 years old with no qualifications and no support or awareness how to do that. What do you think that means for being able to hold down a job? What do you think that means for being able to, like, do anything? Like, life is already so hard, you know? I mean, we lost someone in the community just a couple of weeks ago. That means having to take off time from work to cook for your friends, to drive them places, to show up for them, like, and those sorts of things are happening all the time, not just for trans people, but most marginalized communities. Using people's correct pronouns isn't political correctness gone wild or people being too sensitive. It is suicide prevention. Transphobia is a poison that seeps from the cracks of society and takes the lives of trans and gender non-conforming people every year. I believe that it stems from a very real pain that comes as a result of having to edit ourselves over and over to conform to gender stereotypes. I do not believe that the liberation of trans people is separate from the rest of us. I do not believe that gender stereotypes are liberatory for any of us. If you have been told you throw like a girl, or to man up, or you're too bossy, or too sensitive, or too dramatic, or you must be on your period, being yelled at for not quite performing your gender in the right way, these reinforcements from childhood, they erode at our ability to be our full selves, and they destroy our imaginations for who we could be. Over time, We don't even need others to force us into boxes, because we ourselves become the foot soldiers of the gender binary. Every time we look at someone and dib them not man enough or not woman enough, we aren't just reinforcing these ideas to our children, our loved ones, our colleagues. We are reinforcing them to ourselves. We are telling ourselves that if we stray from the confines of the gender binary, then we are failing and we are not worthy of love and respect.